let's kick off this meeting. First of all, thank you everyone for taking time out today and giving us this opportunity to talk to you about smart home technologies. With us here, Hassan Al and Ian, who will present the latest smart home technology. To you, Hassan.
Thank you, Ali. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good evening. My name is Hassan Al I am the managing co-founder of Labib Solution. Those who speak Arabic, of course, you know Labib is a word for smart, and that's really why we chose the name Labib Solution. So it's a smart solution, and we have been in this market for almost now 10 years. And let me start by sharing my screen. I'll go into a quick intro, and I have Ian from the US with us here, who's going to be also speaking to you, ladies and gentlemen, about this topic. So tell me when you see my screen.
We can.
We can.
Okay, great. So again, this is Labib Solution. So I'm gonna be talking about Labib Solution not from advertisement point of view, but just to give an more of a real life example of a company who works on this market. And I told Ali actually I didn't want to speak about this topic much because I don't want it to be more of like a sale pitch to the audience. So we in Labib Solution, we are electronic systems contractor, and this is a very important words here when we say contractor. So we really do electronic systems in general. It's not really, it doesn't have to be smart. It could be smart and it could be not smart. And we are specializing in home systems. So we really do not do much of commercial work, even though we can, but we are really, really focused on the home technologies. And I wouldn't call it a smart home. I always tell our clients that we design a lifestyle. So Hani's lifestyle could be different than Hussein's lifestyle. So everyone could have a different systems and products that fits his or her need. And Steve Jobs was saying you got to start with the experience, the customer experience, and work backward from there, and then decide what products goes into that building or home. We in our company we custom design, so it's all customized. It's very custom and specific to the client need, and then we manage those expectations. We supply the electronics and whatever that requires, then install it, configure it, and after it's done and operational, we maintain that system in the home. Okay, so we also work with what we call custom install market brands. So custom install, these are brands that are aware of this market. They work with contractors like us who work in the home, and they understand the contractor needs, and we understand, and the contractor understand these products and how they fit into the whole formula of the smart home. So there are something called CI market brands that maybe they're not sold online. They are more to working with contractors than working directly with the end user. And we comply with standards. So this is where CEDIA comes in. So we have Wendy, as she introduced herself. She's coming from CEDIA, and Ian, they're coming from CEDIA. And CEDIA is the agent or the entity that publish standards and guidelines for the smart home or the home technologies. So there are standards out there how to install a speaker, how to install a projector, and what specification should you use when you install, for example, a speaker. So there are standards there that we have to comply to. And these are some of the standards that we actually follow when we design, for example, home cinemas and the ISF, the THX. Some of them are familiar. I think the THX, the TH X is very well known. Maybe some of those are not, but at least some of you can recognize some of the logos of the standards that being followed here. Also, CEDIA conducts CEDIA Awards, which is an annual award for the best project, best smart home, best showrooms, best home cinema. And we in Labib, we were featured as finalists in 2016 and 2019 as one of the best cinemas. This was our room in 2016, and this was our room in 2019. So when we say systems, what systems goes into the home? Okay, and I will put them under four umbrellas. So I will say security is one of them. So we all know the CCTV cameras, intrusion alarm systems, intercom and access control. This is all fall under the the security umbrella. Then we have the audiovisual, which is home theaters, dedicated cinema rooms, audio distribution, and video distribution. So basically, distributing audio around the home, distributing the video also around the home, in one way or another. Also, the network is extremely important for the smart home. It's one of the most critical system that you need to install in your home. And you don't go and buy any network gears because you're gonna have a miserable time if you're not installing the best system for your network. And it's basically a LAN network and an audio and video server. So you could have music stored in a server or videos installed in a servers and you watch them locally. Then the other umbrella is the control system. So installing interfaces like keypads, voice control, touch screens, also the HVAC control, which is basically controlling your HVAC. And this is extremely important in our region, and lighting control. Then the other umbrella is the system integration, which basically controlling all the systems. So you can install these systems as separates and then have them all integrated under one application. And that's when you integrate all the systems together. Having them in one application is just a matter of control. However, you can also trigger one system via another system. So for example, a security system sensor or a camera can trigger the lighting control system to open a light or close that circuit. And also you can integrate applications. So even those smart home platforms, you can have also applications that you can install on them and then have that application trigger systems. For example, in our region, we have the Adhan. So you can have an application that will call for prayer at specific time through your speakers at the right time. Okay, these are the systems that we install in a home system. You can for a smart home or a home system, and you can do it in a lot different ways. It's really not enough for me to speak which is better. Is it wireless or wired? There are a lot of details that goes into this. Now, I wanted this topic also to have a broader coverage, not only about the smart home, but the smart home industry. And we have Hassan who was talking that he might be interested in this market and what does this market offer. So I brought with me, excuse me, I brought with me Ian from CEDIA, who is the Senior Director of Strategic Partnership, that's a mouthful, to also tell us about CEDIA and what CEDIA does and what is this market. And I think this is going to be very beneficial, even if you are just a consumer. So I'm going to stop my sharing here, and then Ian can start sharing his screen and goes over the presentation that he has.
Thank you so much, Hassan. I appreciate that. And I'm very excited to be here. Thank you all so much for inviting us. It's definitely a pleasure for CEDIA to be presenting to this group. Let me get my screen shared here.
By the way, I think this is the first time CEDIA does anything in Saudi. So thanks to the Geeks Club.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I was talking with Wendy in the beginning. very impressed with the level of professionalism and knowledge that this group has, the engineers, and this is really a pleasure to be speaking with you guys, and ladies as well. So again, thank you. My name's Ian Bryant. I'm Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships at CEDIA. Just give you a little background on myself. I started in the industry in the late 90s in live sound and stage, and entered into residential technology integration industry in 2001. In 2010, I started my own consulting design and programming firm. We specialized in commercial, government, military, education, and hospitality. And in 2019, I came on board to CEDIA. I started first off with about a year and a half in technology application and workforce development. And now I'm overseeing our strategic partnerships. Some of those partnerships that I've worked on was, it's interesting that you mentioned ISF and HAA. CEDIA now has ISF and HAA training in-house and on our virtual learning management system, our LMS. Which is really fun. We also did a partnership with Grow with Google, and we're working on many others. On top of that, I manage our cloud-based software platform called the CEDIA Designer, and I manage an affinity program called Propel. I started volunteering for CEDIA back in 2007 and 2011. I was awarded CEDIA Education Volunteer of the Year, and then 2017 overall Volunteer of the Year. Being in the industry for so long, I have many certifications. Most of them are control system related. That was my specialty with Crestron, AMX. And then with all of our commercial work, I was certified in pretty much all of the audio DSPs on the market. So going over our agenda, I just have kind of broke it up in about 5 different categories. Give you a brief overview of who CEDIA is, what we do, what we offer as a industry association, what the residential integration industry is, and kind of what opportunities there are in the industry. And then finally, what I think this group is most excited about are some of the emerging trends that we're watching and we're seeing take center stage right now. So who is CEDIA? Well, CEDIA is a non-for-profit trade association or industry association that was founded in 1989 by a group of tech enthusiasts, or back then also known as audiophiles. It was in the heydays of the 2-channel high-end stereo industry, and there was a group of gentlemen that started it, and it's just grown ever since. And we have 2 offices. Our headquarters are in Indianapolis, Indiana, and our EMEA office, which Wendy works out of, is in St. Neots in the UK, which is just outside of London. We have roughly around 3,700 members, member companies, in over 77 countries. And those members are made up of integrators, trade suppliers, tech individuals, and industry-related professionals. And we are the industry's first certifying body. So what is it that CEDIA does? We advance the industry by developing a qualified workforce, giving access to skills training, and our ANSI accredited certifications are 2 new certifications, which is CIT for Cabling and Infrastructure Technician, and IST for Integrated Systems Technician. We provide expertise through developing white papers, our podcasts, standards and research, and best practices, leading to increased professionalism in the industry as a whole. We champion the industry by advocating with governments and educating other related trades, such as design professionals. And we connect the industry through our events and community. And just to touch on the standards and white papers, we have a very close relationship with the CTA, and the standards body known as the R10 group is now kind of being managed by Walt Zerbe, who is our senior director of technology and standards. And we're working on a couple really exciting new standards. 2 of them are RP22 and RP23. RP22 should be coming out in the next couple months, and it is about all of the new audio standards for entertainment spaces. So this will have some really amazing new definitions for what we're calling cinema grades. So instead of home cinemas or entertainment rooms like media rooms being defined as a price category, they'll actually be defined based off of their performance objectives. And if they're able to hit certain performance objectives, they will be classified in a range of 1 through 4, and 4 being the perfect home cinema or media room you could ever possibly design, which is very hard to reach. But there's really exciting stuff. We also have RP1, which is performance facts, which is allowing this standard-based group to define out what specifications manufacturers should be providing to allow us to know for sure, like a speaker manufacturer claiming that their speakers can hit a certain decibel range. Well, exactly how is that being measured, and how can you prove that? So we're working on these really amazing new standards, and it's really, really exciting stuff. Some of the programs that we support, so we have offering our, we also support our members through offering benefits to elevate their businesses, such as our Global Awards program, which Hassan mentioned, the CEDIA Designer, which is our cloud-based software platform for allowing people to design home cinema and media rooms. Normally takes them days to do. They can do in minutes or hours. And then our Propel program, which is a type of affinity program that enables companies to save money through member-only pricing and access to very new, innovative, and groundbreaking products. And I will say, if you're interested in any of these 3 programs, you can either check out cedia.net/awards, cedia.net/TCD, and cedia.net/Propel. Or if it's in regards to TCD or Propel, you can always reach out to myself. So what is the industry? The residential technology industry consists of, as I mentioned before, the manufacturer, trade suppliers, so companies like Control4, like Samsung, Sony. So your speaker manufacturers, your TV manufacturers, projectors, screens, anything that makes up a control system, security. Then there's the integrators, and the integrators are the boots on the ground, is what we would say in the States. Is they're doing the design, the sale of the product, then the installation, configuration, and walking the homeowners through how to use the products. There's also consultants and designers. So sometimes integrators just don't have the available staff in-house to be able to do some of the larger projects. So we have, for instance, there's a really big workforce of home cinema designers that, because it is a very, very niche industry, and when you get into some of the really high-end home cinemas, it takes some really specific expertise with a lot of background knowledge. There's the subcontractors and the tech pros, which I'll talk about the tech pros in a little bit, but there is, and the commercial side, if you've seen the commercial side, subcontractors are very common. We're starting to see that pick up in the residential side as well, post-COVID, where there's fluctuations in staff. People are being a little bit more flexible in hiring subcontractors. Then there's also the sales reps and distributors. So the sales reps, independent sales reps will partner with a manufacturer or trade supplier to represent their product line and sell it to the integrators to then sell to the end users. And then the distributors obviously are the big wholesale. They will distribute all different types of manufacturer products globally. Some opportunities in the industry as far as the workforce is concerned. I won't go into the manufacturer side of the workforce. That's pretty much similar to any product-based company. They're going to have engineers. They're going to have the product managers and project managers, sales associates. But when it comes to integrators, you'll have usually one or more salespeople, project management. The integration companies that are doing really well will have a service department to manage either their current clients, or there's a lot of homeowners that were upset with their last integration company and looked for someone as a service department to take over servicing their systems. And then the technicians, there's multiple different levels. You've got your basic that are doing that first fix kind of pre-wire stage. You've got mid-level technicians that can do a little bit of the first fix and the second fix. And then you've got those lead technicians that have been in the industry for generally between like 5+ years, that they're able to go on site and manage the project when it gets to the final install from beginning to end, do the training with the end user, and then report back to the project manager. There's programmers, which was my specialty for a long time, engineers, system designers, and then the owners. And a lot of times in the industry, all over the world, we see, with all SMBs, multiple hats being worn is extremely common. So the average size of our CEDIA membership company are in that kind of 3 to 8 employee range. They're very small businesses. So you may not have an integration company with all these different types of job roles. There may be the programmer is also the engineer and the system designer and does some lead technician work, or the owner is also doing sales and project management. So we do see that very common. And then
I'm a victim of that, Ian. I call myself the CEO, but standing for chief everything officer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was there as well. It's very taxing, but it's very rewarding in this industry.
Yeah.
And then as far as the subcontractors and specialists, they're programming for advanced systems. That's what my company specialized in before I came on to CEDIA. We were subcontractors just for companies that needed some work on very high-end projects. There are companies that do nothing but create modules for specific control systems, such as Control4, Crestron, Savant. That's all they do, because the control system companies just can't keep up with writing modules for all of the new hardware that's coming out in the industry all the time. And then there's design engineering firms, subcontractor just for installs, and then just consultants. I did some consulting work as well for residential integration companies that were trying to get into commercial work and didn't quite understand the complications and the different hardware and nuances of being in the commercial world.
So I want to elaborate a little bit, Ian, on this topic, which is the module creation, because we are here in a different market, and this seems to be going on more in the US and in the UK, or like this region. Now, there are a lot of applications that can be developed for the region, and I give an example earlier for the call for prayer application, and this was designed for a Control4 system. So, ladies and gentlemen, the idea is really simple. So these companies, they have their own platform. It's like Apple iOS and Google Android. You have basically a platform that people are developing application for. So these smart home companies or manufacturer, they have also their own platform that you can create application for, and there are companies that only does that version of the whole process. And that's what I wanted to really emphasize here, that there's also a big gap in our market because nobody really knows about this.
Absolutely. And I have and here shortly I have a slide to specifically talk about some of the changes that are coming in the control system market that are going to, I believe, open up a lot of opportunities for coders that are not in our industry. So some of the key stakeholders, who drives the market inside of the residential technology industry, or the influencers, obviously the homeowners, the design professionals, which includes the architects, interior designers, developers or housing builders, and structural engineers, real estate agents, and then lighting consultants, and integrators that are looking to expand, really spend a lot of time trying to develop relationships with a lot of the influencers, especially the design professionals, because they're generally the first ones in the door when it comes to developing a new, working on a new project. And if you have a really good relationship with a local builder or an architect, they'll generally refer to you to the end user, the homeowner, or the client first before the client gets a chance to start searching out for the technology professional company. And so developing these relationships with the influencers is really key for success. So technology trends, what everyone's been waiting for. And this is really exciting because I really enjoy keeping up with everything, and there's a lot of fun stuff happening right now.
Hey, Ian,
yes.
I think Hassan has a question before we
Yes.
start with the technology trends.
Sure.
Hassan, Huwairi, go ahead.
Yeah. Looking at the stakeholders, I mean, the drivers of the technology, I didn't see any of, let's say, the standard, let's say the current market standard providers like Dolby or any other standard provider listed here. Are you taking that into consideration when you design your solutions?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The standards. So this group, as far as the influencers, was mainly to call out, who's driving the market to the providing the business or the work for the integrators. The standards groups like THX and the R10 and CTA, they're not doing any. There's no referrals, or they're not getting, the integrators aren't getting business because of that. But absolutely. An integrator that is going through proper training and is keeping up with the new codes and standards is taking into consideration all of the new advancements in the recommended practices and the standards in their system designs. And that's one thing that we at CEDIA really emphasize to our integrators, is to make sure that you're staying up with the continued education, because it's always changing. For instance, a really short note is when we worked with Joel Silver to bring the ISF class into our LMS. I worked with Joel directly. He went in and actually did a full revamp on his class, because even though it had only been about a year since he had done an update, he had to make so many changes because of the new technology advancements. And so we very much recommend, and the same goes with you, integrators or members and non-members using TCD, even though it is a software platform that walks you through and makes it a lot easier to do the system designs. We very much and highly recommend that you have a background, at least a baseline knowledge of cinema design, audio and video basics, acoustic basics, and mathematic basics, to understand what is happening and how to explain the process to your clients. So we definitely recommend keeping up with those standards, and also talking to your clients about the fact that you are using those standards in their system designs to make sure that it is done properly, 100%.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Was there someone else?
No, nobody.
Okay.
Crazy.
Okay. All right. So technology trends. All right. This first one's really exciting. I put this one first because, coming from my history, my last 10 years before coming on to CEDIA, being in commercial, government, military, and education, I did a lot of projects over the last 5 years as Dante and AVB really took off, that made the work a lot easier and a lot more exciting. So both Dante and AVB are, AVB is an actual standard. Dante is a technology that was invented by a company called AudioNet. And what they do is they packetize, or they take analog audio, and AVB also video signals, and put them over the network. Like I said, it's been in commercial use for years, with microphones, amplifiers, speakers, AVB with PTZ cameras for video conferencing. It allows for that high channel count to transmit over Ethernet instead of over large analog cable bundles. And what we're starting to see now is the introduction into the residential market. Recently, Crestron just released a part of their DM line, their NACS, or network audio. I think it's network audio interface. And then NVX, which is their network video. And we have at the CEDIA headquarters our entire video distribution systems with NVX. But what it really allows for, if you think about trying to transfer or transmit all of these audio signals over old analog cabling, it completely eliminates that. So one of the examples that I give is that eventually I see that either Dante or AVB will start to be included onto consumer TVs. And if you've ever done a system, or if you've thought about how to, I know some of you haven't done these systems. I know Hassan, you have, but like if you have a TV and say a living room, and you have surround in that room, but you've put all of your equipment into what's called a MEL or main equipment location in the basement or some other area. But you've got a local source at the TV, like the built-in apps on the TV, but you want to get that audio back to your surround receiver. Generally, in the past, you would have to run an analog audio line from your TV back to your receiver and do that switching. But with things like Dante and AVB, that could all be done over the network. So there's no additional cables that have to be run. Once that TV is on your network with a hardwired Ethernet connection, you can send that reverse audio path back to, say, your surround receiver that would then pick that up and send it over the speakers. So there's lots of really cool possibilities coming down the road, incorporating Dante and AVB over into the residential area and getting rid of a lot of those old analog connections.
I can give a real life example here, Ian. It's basically the house of worship applications we have in our region. It's very popular here,
Yep.
but it has a lot of problems, and also it is very rigid. It's not easy to add and to remove something from that system because it's all done via wire. But when you do it over the network, it's a lot more flexible. It's really the sky is the limit because now it's all about the network. So that's why Dante. I've been in business in 10 years. I'm doing my first Dante application in a gym right now. So, and I can see that Dante is going to go to the home as well because it's going to make it more flexible. Now, don't be scared because of the name, but it's basically just distributing the audio from the source to the speakers to whatever is in between all over the network.
Absolutely. And they have their own education platform, or not platform, but they have their own certifications. There's 3 levels. It's very easy to learn, but it's really fun, cool technology that's really exciting to see. So our next one that we're noticing, which I'm sure everyone is seeing, are the new micro LED displays. All the big names are jumping in the game. I think everyone saw the initial launch of the Samsung The Wall was pretty much the first one to come out. Now video walls have been out forever. They've been out for decades, literally. And even LED video walls have been out recently. But these new micro LED displays that are seamless. There's no bezels. There's and the contrast and brightness that they're hitting are like nothing we've ever seen before.
Let me also elaborate, Ian, because I don't think everybody knows what you're talking about.
Okay,
unfortunately,
sure.
they're not really. I'm not. Maybe some of the people do, but I'm just saying maybe some don't. So basically, having a large TV in your home used to be limited to an actual TV or a projector and a screen. And when Ian talked about the video wall, so basically this is what you see when you go to a mall and you see these screens next to each other to make one large screen. Now, this is a new technology, which is a micro LED display, which is basically small pieces that can be joined together to make a big screen, but you don't see any bezel in between, and you make a very, very large screen with this. So this now you don't require a projector to have a 200-inch or 250-inch screen in your home. Now, you're not going to see this a lot because this is super expensive at the moment. I've yet to sell one of those, but I can see it a lot in the news, and sometimes we quote things like this for the very high, the very super rich people, I would say, who are interested in something like that. But this is what's next now in the market.
And
Absolutely.
if you
Oh, go
don't
ahead.
mind, how do you connect to it? Like, usually you connect your HDMI cable to the TV.
Same way.
So
Yeah.
they all, yeah, they all connect over HDMI, but they'll have controllers, and then the controller will generally, they all have a little bit different, but generally the controller will send the connection to one of the tiles, what they call. They're made up of multiple tiles, and that one tile will then spread the image further and further and further. So the more tiles you add, the bigger the image becomes. But there's either one controller, multiple controllers, then there's the power supplies that are included. Back, I used to install planar video walls, and so planar, what they did is one controller would power or would be able to configure a 2x2, so four displays, and if you wanted to go bigger, you added another controller and another controller, and then you could add multiple sources to those controllers. So if you wanted to just one image, you could do a single image, you could do a 2x2, a 4x4, you could continue to grow. It's scale, it's the ability to scale. The LG, Samsung, and Sony's, I believe they're all a little bit different, but they're somewhere in that 40-inch. Their tiles are in that 40-inch range. I think maybe the LGs are 49. But you start off with one, and then the cool thing about these is, unlike the old video wall technology, you did have cables that connected every single display, whereas these new micro LEDs that use these tiles, there are these actual hard pins that they actually snap into place, and there's no connectors. It's very, very cool technology. We do call it the luxury living space, or luxury entertainment space. The starting price point of most of these is six figures, like $100,000 is usually about the starting point for these. And each different ones, and the LGs go from 49-inch to almost 600 inches, and with 8K resolution. The walls 88 inches to 292, and then the Sony Crystal LED, completely customizable. I've seen some that are 20 foot wide and 15 foot tall. They're completely customizable and up to 16K. But what's crazy is the brightness capability of these, because they're direct view LEDs. They can peak at 1600 nits with 800 nits max. To give you a little perspective on that, a nit is what we call the measurement of light as it comes off of a surface, so either a screen or a flat panel, and hits your eyes, or hits a meter. An IMAX theater measures at 100 nits. So you can imagine how bright these are. And generally, when put into closed light environments like a home cinema, they have to turn them way down because they're just way too bright. But in a media room or an outdoor entertainment space, they provide that brightness that you can't really get with a front or rear projection without spending even more than what these cost. And so it does give a lot of different new opportunities, though that does come with some drawbacks. If you can imagine, if you have a 200-inch video wall that is made up of panels, you can't, if you had a home cinema with a projection screen, and you did a screen with what we call micro perf, or a screen that is acoustically transparent, we can put speakers behind that. We can't do that with these micro LED displays and these large video walls. So the speaker placement becomes an issue. You have to start thinking about either putting them in the ceiling, or there's a company called K-Array that is out of Italy that has some of these really, really thin array speakers that you can put around the bezel. So it comes with some challenges, but it's definitely taking hold in that really high-end luxury entertainment space.
I think an example that we can see here is basically in the commercial cinema. I think Samsung have something. They have what they call the wall, which is for the home market, but they have something called Onyx, if I'm not mistaken, for the commercial space. So when you go to these cinemas, commercial cinemas, and you see Onyx on it, that's basically a micro LED screen, a large one. Then they don't use a projector with that screen.
Exactly. Control systems. I just I'm working on a piece and an article about this. It's very dear to my heart. Writing Crestron and AMX for the last 20 years. I'm really excited about what's happening with some of the control systems. So when I talk about control systems, Hassan referenced Control 4 and how these integrate all of the subsystems in the home. And over the years, they've started to transition or morph a little bit. But if you think about an integrated home, you have all of these different subsystems: security, audio, video, your lighting, your shades, irrigation, possibly garage doors, so many options. I've integrated anything and everything. We put in RFID trackers on someone's car, so as they drove up their driveway, we would sense where the car was and it would turn on all these lights. And a control system was behind that, processing all that information and then communicating with all the other systems to tell them what to do. So you can start doing automation things where you hear feedback from one system and do something to another system without having to have any interaction from the end user. But what's happening recently with the control systems is really exciting. Traditionally, the two big ones like Crestron and was AMX, who's really kind of stepped out of the residential market, but is still very prevalent in the large corporation and government and military, at least here in the U.S. and the States. They had their own software that they developed for the programmers to write in to configure these control systems. And so Crestron had a software called Simple Plus and Simple Windows, and for their graphics it was called VT Pro E. AMX had NetLink Studio, and then the graphics was TP Design. And they made a conscious decision over the past probably decade, they've been working on this, to start to move away from this software that they have to write, that they have to manage, and getting into real programming languages and getting outside what we call outside the sandbox. And so Crestron is now working, you can write an entire home control system based in C# code and HTML5 and load them onto Crestron processors. They just announced at the Masters 2 months ago that they're working on a translator to allow for not just to be C#, but translator will allow you to write in any language. And the first one, I believe, is going to be their JavaScript. I think that's what they announced, was JavaScript. And so AMX a few years ago announced that they're also transitioning out of their NetLink Studio, which was C++ programming language, to get into JavaScript and HTML5. Control 4 is still going to be utilizing their own software, but they do allow for those that are educated to write their own custom modules in Lua. And when Hassan and I talked about that, mentioned that earlier, as far as writing modules, if you are putting in, say, a Control 4 control system in a home, and you want to integrate with a thermostat or an HVAC system that is not supported by Control 4, you have the ability, as long as that system has an API that you can read and interpret in either a hardwired port like RS-232 or Ethernet port like Telnet or SSH, you have the ability to then write a custom module utilizing the Lua programming language and import it into the Control 4 library, and then make that communication back and forth. The benefits that I see, there's some people that are very afraid of this, that jobs may get lost, or it may be harder for programmers to start learning these new languages. In fact, it's going to make things a lot easier. The C# and JavaScript are not very hard languages to learn. They're object-oriented. They're very powerful programming languages. HTML and HTML5 is supported globally, hands down. And what I'm really excited about is having the ability for a workforce that was struggling to find programmers. Integrators were always struggling. I am certified in Crestron and AMX in the state of Indiana, or I was located in Indiana. And I would get calls from people in all 5 states around us saying, I can't find anyone that can do both. But now, if you talk about C#, JavaScript, and HTML5, we're able to pull people straight out of college that have computer science backgrounds that are learning this. And then we can just teach them how to understand the home integration and audio, video, and all of the subsystem side of it, which is much easier to teach than teaching someone how to learn a programming language. So there's lots of really cool benefits, and it's really exciting to see the control systems trying to get outside the sandbox and to get into the real world in programming languages.
So, Ian, I have a question here. We here at Geeks Club are pro to open source technologies and software. Is there open source control systems?
They're kind of, most of them use Raspberry Pi, and they're kind of the DIY for the geek. I consider myself a geek too. So there's not really a company out there that is, say, a CDA member that's showing at our events that is a open source. We use Raspberry Pi, but you can search. There's quite a few online that make little modules that will use a Raspberry Pi as the kind of the backbone or mainframe. And then there's, I can't remember any of the names, but I know that they'll sell some sensor circuit boards that you can just implement yourself for, motion. You can do IR, RS-232, Ethernet. You can do all of these things and kind of build it out yourself, but it is very DIY.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ian, I think we
Yes.
will need to speed up the
Okay.
remaining of the presentation because
Okay.
we have
Yeah,
much
so I'm going to
time.
run through these super quick. Wellness and WellTech is huge. It's blowing up. Right now, wellness is a $4.5 trillion industry in the U.S. alone. We are starting to see huge influx in water quality monitoring, air filtration monitoring, light. When we talk about light, we're talking about circadian rhythm and human-centric lighting. All of the big lighting manufacturers right now are getting in and jumping on board to the human-centric lighting craze. Sleep quality, exercise. The one picture you can see is one of our Propel partners called Immersive Gym, where they completely immerse yourself into your exercise routine. Then there's the limited mobility, living in place, aging in place, and then peace of mind. So wellness and WellTech is a fast growing trend in our market, and we definitely see that continuing to grow. Work from home as post-pandemic, we're here in the States, we're hearing a possibility of upwards of 40% of people are going to be either working from home or doing hybrid. So we're seeing a lot of the companies that are providing video conferencing and audio conferencing technologies for the commercial side, bringing some of those into residential so that you can now have that same technology in your home at your home office. People are talking, companies are doing dedicated internet for their remote workers so they can have not just their personal internet, but their business internet, upgrading their network infrastructure in homes, seeing a huge influx in that. And then more professional offices with lighting, more professional cameras and audio quality. DOCSIS 4.0, I won't go too deep into this, but if you really want to see some cool stuff, look at Cable Labs and DOCSIS 4.0. This is a technology around the data over cable services interface. It's the specification that was formed by Cable Labs in 1997. DOCSIS 4.0's goal is to get 10 gigabits per second at every household in the entire globe. The standard has already been released. They anticipate it's going to take the next probably 8 to 9 years for it to get all of the hardware updated across the globe so that we can get that. But it's going to give us symmetrical multi-gigabit speeds at 10 gigabit, 6 gigabit up, 10 down, 6 up, high reliability, high security, and super low latency. This is really exciting for when we're talking about what we're going to be able to do inside of the home going forward. AR, VR, MR, XR. I'm sure you've heard these terms. These are all really exciting. Augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, and extended reality. They are still here. They are still around, and they are only getting bigger or faster, smarter, more impressive. And what we anticipate next, not in the next couple of years, in the next decade, we will start to see some new technology that supports holodecks. I know, straight out of science fiction, it's crazy to think about it, but we're getting closer, and it's really exciting stuff to follow. I definitely would look into this and follow these topics if you're following any like tech news sites, to put these in your search. They're really exciting things to follow. Do it for me, do it with me in the pro channel. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this. We're just seeing this is more about a business side, not really the technology. We're seeing a huge influx in business around the do it for me, where people are buying the direct to consumer products and they're looking for professionals to come in and install that with them or help them do it themselves. It's definitely in the States and in the EMEA region is growing rapidly. I mean, when you have companies like Ring and Nest who now have they have pro programs, and they recommend that consumers, when they buy, say, a Nest thermostat, that they hire a Nest Pro to come and install it and configure it for them and show them how to use it. We're seeing this as far as a business in the channel. This is growing very, very rapidly. And then just real quick, I added this slide last minute. Someone said something about infrastructure and mass sensorization. We're seeing definitely mass sensorization is a topic that we're talking about here at CEDIA, putting in sensors all over your home, which then questions, where does all of that data go? It's a very interesting conversation. If you type in mass sensorization, CEDIA at ISE, there is one of our volunteers does a speech on this. It's really, really amazing. I recommend that. Immersive audio, immersive sound. These are two things to keep your eye on. Apple just released their immersive sound, partnering with, well, not partnering, but putting some new immersive sound audio into the music, as well as implementing it into the technology of the AirPods and the Beats headphones. Infrastructure trends, wired, wireless, and fiber. All I can say is if it's got an Ethernet jack on it, hardwire it. Pull fiber in your home. Make sure you have fiber, because we will be supporting fiber more and more. It's going to be more and more common, even though it's been around for decades. And wireless technologies like Wi-Fi 6 are finally here, and it's going to make wireless in the home much faster, much more reliable, much lower latency, and a lot easier to use. And then the post-pandemic predictions, we definitely see entertainment spaces spiking huge. As everyone spent a lot more time in their homes, they're starting to reinvest in their entertainment spaces, and again in the wellness and well tech and areas as well. So sorry, I know like blew through that really quick. I should have spent more time on the tech. Does anyone have any questions? Anything I can answer about any of the stuff that I just went through super quick?
Yeah, I have a question. It seems like I asked a lot of questions, so sorry for that. Um, if I'm building a new house and I would choose between wireless and wired system, um, which one do you recommend?
Both. Like I said, I would recommend pulling hard, Cat 6. You should be fine with Cat 6. You don't need to go to Cat 7. To every location that you would have anything that has, like I said, anything that has an Ethernet jack on it. The reason why is if you start to build out a home where you've got not just your laptops, your mobile phones, and any devices that don't have Ethernet jacks, like IoT devices like your appliances, cameras, you start then adding on things like Apple TVs and streaming devices that are really high bandwidth hogs. You want to make sure that those are going to be on hardwired Ethernet as far as to get the best performance out of your wireless network, so that they're not hogging a lot of the communications over wireless. So that's my biggest recommendation. Kind of anticipate where you might have devices in a home, and then pull as much hardwired data as necessary, have a really good backbone infrastructure, and then from there build out a really robust wireless for all of those devices that can't be hardwired.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I've just done a home renovation myself, and very much it was a wired background, few wireless devices added onto the back of it. And I must admit, through the pandemic, I've been working from home. My partner's been working from home. My son's upstairs playing games. And if I hadn't had the robust wired infrastructure in place, I'd have been in trouble.
Sure.
From my side, as somebody who does this for our clients, it's always depends on at what stage the home is. But if you're building right now, you're starting from scratch, we will run a cable. As we said, Ali, previously, now you have even speakers that can be connected to the to the wire jack, which is the Cat6 cable. So you have the flexibility to use that cable in one way or another. Is it for internet? Is it for a speaker? Is it for probably a thermostat? It will you can use that cable one way or another, and you cannot do the cable later on, because if you don't do it right from the beginning, you cannot run cables anymore.
Yep.
We always say the most expensive cable is the one that you didn't put in before you built the walls.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sure. Hassan has a question.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you both, Hassan and Ian. That presentation was really spot on, and I've learned a lot that I can say. But I actually would like to stand and just ask a few questions, if I may. By few, I just mean like, three, or probably not more than five. I can promise you that.
Well, Hassan, it seems like you need a presentation of your own, but go ahead.
Probably. Anyway, so at the beginning, I'd like to start with like, what kind of gadgets are we talking about? The smart gadgets, because I know when we talk about smart, that means we all monitor as well as communicate. So how? Because Hassan, you mentioned sending the adhan wave. I mean, is it just a signal we are sending to a stored or a saved voice note, the voice clip that we just play, or how do we send
Okay.
the notes? That's what I mean.
So as I said before, Hassan, basically, when you have a control system like Crystron or Control 4, you can develop application for for these companies' controllers, and this application could be an adhan application or call for prayer. Then when the time comes for the adhan, this application will trigger the control system to send the adhan to the speakers that you have in your home, and then you will hear the adhan in your home. So it's basically a software that runs on the controller that will be playing the adhan or the audio signal, and it will be passed to the amplifier. So here we have a system talking to another system, and then it will play into the speakers.
Yeah, that's absolutely understandable. Thank you. Yeah, so the clip would be saved in the code, and then it would just play as per because when we say communication, it's like, am I communicating the whole clip, or am I just
The
communicating
whole
the
thing, yes, the
Okay,
whole thing.
yeah.
It's an application that was designed by a programmer basically, and he puts
Perfect.
the whole adhan in there.
Perfect. Now, moving towards this communication technology, because myself, I'm an electrical engineer. I'm all about this communication technology. It is something of a big deal, because in order to communicate signals, it is easy. We can communicate through, as you guys said, there was sound signals. That is doable, and actually, it's pretty amazing. But I gotta ask, what is the frequency range are we talking about in here? Is it just in the matter of hertz, not even the kilo? Because if it's only sound, it's in the range of hundreds of hertz, not even kilos.
I'm not sure I understood your question, honestly, Hassan. So we're saying when you send a signal, like a voice control signal, or what exactly?
Yeah.
If you can elaborate. And we will, sorry, Hassan, we will take this second question and we'll leave the floor for the others.
Okay, no problem. I completely apologize.
You can
Yeah.
connect with me over WhatsApp after this.
Yeah,
So
that
no,
would be
but go ahead with this question.
Okay, just this question that. Okay, it's about the communication technology. Usually, we transmit signals through it's through stepping it on another signal of a certain kind of frequency. So, what kind of frequency are we talking?
Okay.
Because
I can understand now. So
Perfect.
here in the control system, we could use Wi-Fi as the communication medium. There is another wireless technology, I would say, it's called Zigbee, and there is Z-Wave. So these are all a communication medium, if I'm right, if I can say that, if Ian can confirm that.
Yep.
So these are the wireless medium that can be used. Control 4, which is the company that we use, use Zigbee. They don't use Wi-Fi to communicate between a device and another.
Yeah. So you have, if I hopefully don't get this backwards, but there's Zigbee and Z-Wave. One runs off 2.4 gigahertz, which is same as like 802.11b old Wi-Fi or G. And then I think it's Z-Wave runs off 908 roughly megahertz. So they're all RF frequencies. It's broken down into binary communication when it's transmitting over the radio frequency, but control systems will have different ways of communications between each other. So either Wi-Fi, which is RF, or Zigbee, Z-Wave. And then as far as communicating to the other or other subsystems, that can be over Ethernet. Like I said, it can be over IR, infrared. It can be over RF. It can be over old school hardwired communication like RS-232, RS-485. That's why the control systems are kind of built to be this platform of being able to speak all, not just different languages, but over different communication platforms.
Okay, perfect. Seriously, perfect. Thank you. Okay, I'll leave the stage.
Hani Abbas, you have your hand.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Thank you for this presentation. It was lovely. It was full of information, so I need to maybe dissect it at some other point later on. I was wondering, once we mentioned that we need to pull a number of cables to each room. Now, for me, for my case, luckily, I pulled 2 cables while I was doing the infrastructure at the beginning. Now, I think that even the 2 cables are not good enough. Now, one of them is, they're all PoEs I'm talking about, and they are either used for phone or for a TV. And I don't know, I think we're going to reach to a point where we get the IoT devices coming up, and there will be a huge need of splitting these cables. So I tried once, I don't know, I'm asking you because maybe you have a better device or better advice, I would say, to split PoE cables. Is there any way we can split PoE cables instead of pulling another one every time? Whenever we have a use for a one, we just pull a new one.
Yeah, I mean, you can always put in a PoE switch at the location where you need additional ports. So if you pulled a PoE cable, now it depends obviously where it is. I mean, if you pulled a PoE cable to a camera and you need to put something else there, you may not have the space to put it. But if it's, say, in a credenza or a piece of furniture, and it's for a device where you can put a PoE switch in that then has other PoE ports on it, that's one way of expanding. The other way, which I know is too late for the situation now, and I always say this, we can never future-proof any system in a home, but you can be future-ready. And one of the things that I always recommend that's somewhat inexpensive is to do flexible conduit from your main equipment locations to areas where you may think down the road where you might want to add some infrastructure. And you can do, a 1 inch or an 1.5 inch, 2 inch flexible conduit. And do those to all of your major places, and it definitely helps down the road if you find yourself in these situations. But for the current situation, I would look at just adding a PoE switch to the system.
Thank you so much.
Hassan Huwaidi.
Yeah. Thank you, Ian, for the presentation. It's an eye opener. I have 2 questions. One is for Ian, and the other one is actually for Labiba. The first one is regarding the controllers and the fact they are expandable. That's a great feature. I mean, you can program your own software and to the likes of the owner. But isn't this exposing some security issues? Like, wouldn't it be necessary to patch these systems like regularly? I mean, the last thing you want to do is to patch your systems at home after doing it at work, right? So
as far as the control systems or like conferencing?
The control systems. Like we were talking about. I mean, the way I'm imagining this is it's like an appliance that with a control. I mean, with a control unit, command unit, and you would need to regularly, let's say, patch that, operate that system, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm totally new to
Yes.
this thing.
Yeah, so control systems like Crestron, and I believe Control 4 has done some advancements in their security protocols. I know Crestron has switched over. They used to communicate over their own. They kind of classified their own Ethernet ports, 41794 and 41795. You know, like HTTP port is port 80, right? So Crestron said we're going to grab these two ports, and that's the ports we'll communicate on. And when they did that, there was you could, if you knew someone's static IP address of their home and you knew that they had a Crestron system, you could, you know, kind of backdoor into their system. And really, the only thing you could do without having the source code is just, you know, turn their whole home system off. But they have switched over to SSH, and so all of their communication over Ethernet to the control system is over SSH, which is secure protocol. So as long as the installation company or the integrator is not leaving username and passwords as default, which Crestron also has put in, and I believe Control 4 is working on this as well, and some of the other Savant, some of the other control systems, they're switching over to these secure Ethernet protocols, and they're also switching over to making it mandatory to resetting the username and passwords from the defaults so that there is no issues of the possibility of someone hacking in. And again, you can't, without having knowledge, either the software or the source code, you wouldn't be able to go in and say unlock someone's door that's connected to it. But what you could do is really upset someone and completely erase the memory of the processor, and they wouldn't be able to use their system. But again, they are getting much better as far as the security protocols.
All right, clear. Hassan, I have a question for you, actually for Labiba. So, you're saying the involvement should like setting up a smart home should be as early as possible. I mean, but how early is that? I mean, is it during the designing phase of the structural, let's say, design of the house, or is the interior design, or at what stage exactly? And that's all. That's my last question. Anyways, thank you, guys.
You're welcome, Hassan. Answering your question, as long as it is done before the plastering, you are fine because you still have room to run new cables. So as Hani said, he assumed, for example, that he needs two cables, so he ran two cables. What we advise is that you have to specify the surfaces that you need in a specific room. Say you want speakers, so that's an audio service. You want a satellite service, so that's another cable. You need an internet service, so that's another cable. So you have to really quantify, you have to plan ahead and how you will live in that space, and know what kind of cables you need to run. Now, as you can never be sure 100%, of course, but as long as you have done let's say the minimum, I think you will be fine.
I'll add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would add to that. The only time, as far as infrastructure, absolutely, that I would say if you're thinking about incorporating some, like if you want to incorporate a home cinema or an entertainment space or a media room in a home where you may have to build out specific, like a bulkhead for a projector or an equipment room, or I definitely, the earlier the better when it comes to that, so that you're meeting with the structural designers. Otherwise, if you come in late, you can incur some costs where they have to move walls or change the layout of a floor plan. But definitely the sooner the better as far as the infrastructure is concerned, right before the plasterboard or the drywall goes up.
I was really referring more to the smart home. When it comes to the cinema,
gotcha.
When it comes to the cinema, for example, we really recommend that you do this really early, because we have people who come to us who place their cinema next to their bedroom, and in that case, it's a disaster. You know, you cannot, even if you you will spend a lot of money doing an isolation job,
Oh, yeah.
a soundproofing job that you could have saved just by moving the room to somewhere else. So yeah, for the home cinema, it's really before you even build the home, you need to consult with us or consult with your dealer if it was not us. But in when it comes to the smart home, yeah, you need to decide the service or imagine what you need to do in that room and pull the cables for it.
So Labiba has it as a service, right, Hassan?
Yeah, yeah, we do this as a service, exactly.
Great, great. Thank you.
I think Ali had his hand raised, but it seems like he's gone. So yeah, Ali, Abbas, you want to conclude? I think because I don't see anybody raising his hand or her hand.
I, I was just going to say real quick, if anyone is curious about Cedia, cedia.net's our website, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. This is my information, iBrian@cedia.org, or find me on pretty much any social media platform at iBrian20. Again, working for a nonprofit, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I know Hassan is probably the exact same way. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, so much. This has been amazing, and I really enjoyed giving this presentation to all of you.
And on behalf of Geeks Club, we would like to thank you both, Ian and Hassan, for really good, great presentation. Thank you.